Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of Learning Outside the Lines with Kyle and Glenn, or Glenn and Kyle. It doesn't matter. Glenn, what's going on, man?
Not much. Just as exciting times as always. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Enjoying these spring days. Not too hot, not too cold. The pollen can, fly off. That would be great.
Bye, Felicia.
Yep. But outside of that, it's been wonderful. So let's talk about today's episode. Is a special episode. We're gonna have 4 guests with us for the first time ever. We're gonna have really cool perspectives. We're bringing in a university professor that works with students who are about to enter the workforce as teachers for the first time. So student teachers. We're gonna have 2 of her student teachers join us, and we're going to have a first-year teacher who is experiencing an interesting first year, right?
Yeah, just
so we're
a little.
excited to have all of them. We'll introduce them in just a little bit, but we do want to start with our quick anecdotes. So Glenn, what's your story today, man?
Well, I mean nothing earth-shattering other than the fact that I figured out today, or kind of learned today, my 2.5-year-old daughter taught me just how big of objects she could pick up on her own. So that was kind of a fun journey. We're spending some time outside today, and it was probably a log. I don't think it was a stick anymore. I think it's more of a log. And then there were some sticks too, but it was exciting just being outside and adventuring. And I'm like, oh wow, she can't pick. Oh, okay, she picked it up, and I mean it. Yeah, I think they're ants. I don't think they're like babies. They're like ants. So it's kind of fun.
Surprisingly strong.
It's very, yeah.
Well, so mine actually comes from local headlines that I wanted to share that I think is a really neat thing that's going on. One of a small group, but really spearheaded by this one young lady in our community, is been trying to feed local healthcare workers at the local hospital in Gwinnett County. She's part of what we call the Gwinnett Leadership Team for students, and that's been around for a long time. But just wanted to share a couple of images of the work she's been doing. She's been basically created a program called Gwinnett Meal Bridge, and so she works with a couple of her fellow students who are also wanting to make an impact, and they are gathering produce where they can, putting together meals, and a couple of times a week taking them to the local hospital just to make sure that some healthcare workers are taken care of.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Her name's Krista Campbell, and she's doing really cool things, obviously. So
that's cool.
Just to show some of the sack lunches that they've created.
Oh wow. That's cool.
Yep, I think that's mom right there. But and then these are some of the other students that she's worked with to make this happen that are on that leadership team.
Very cool.
So just wanted to share that. I thought that's absolutely newsworthy. I'm glad to see
Definitely
that continuing to go on in the community. So that's my quick anecdote for the day.
Very cool.
Without further ado, let's get into the good word.
Yeah, let's get to it.
So normally we would be sharing a teaching hack with you today, but we are choosing not to because we have such a robust list of guests with us today. So let's talk a little bit about them. So we're going to be bringing on in just a second Michelle Goodsite. So we've actually known Michelle for a while in a couple different capacities at Kennesaw State University. She's a senior lecturer, and she's part of the clinical practice coordinator for the English education program at Kennesaw State University. And we're really excited to have her. We first contacted her and we said, it's like, hey, we want to talk to you. And she was like, well, you don't really want to talk to me. You want to talk to my students that I've either worked with before who have entered the field or the ones who are about to. And she's absolutely right. So she's been able to also get us 2 of her student teachers who are finishing up their degree and getting ready to get hired. We'll actually find out. Maybe they're already hired. I don't know what the status is for them, but Hannah, Oliver, and Hunter Spurlock are going to join us. And then is also a special treat, someone who's gone through the Kennesaw program recently. This is her very first year of teaching at Kennesaw Mountain High School. We're going to have Alex Russom join us as well. So that's pretty exciting too. So let's go ahead and start by getting Michelle on with us. There we go. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
This is such an extraordinary time for all of us. Before we started the show, we kind of hinted at the idea that this is keeping me and Glenn sane. So we just appreciate that people keep willing to jump on and kind of lend their voice. And you're a voice we haven't necessarily had either. We've had Dr. Dale on before, and so Jen was able to speak to some of what she was doing with remote learning, which she's been doing for years now.
Right.
But this is a little bit different for you as you were working with student teachers who are about to enter the workforce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say we were lucky because the nature of the spring semester is one that really the front loading of the semester happens before they submit their consequential ed TPA portfolio. And as we were moving towards shutting down, they were actually finishing up and submitting their technical review and their final portfolios to Pearson. So thank goodness they were done with the process and can move that off their plate before they were having to remote teach and support their collaborating teacher and to try to finish out their courses. And so I feel lucky and blessed that they were able to finish those important things at the beginning of the semester so that they could take some time to focus on really trying to figure out what online teaching looks like in collaboration with their teachers.
Yeah, it is nice that a lot of everything that needed to get done was getting done before we kind of hit this moment, and that's serendipitous, I think, for everybody. We'll of course talk to them about their experience here in a moment too. So it's, the question I wanted to ask was, you kind of answered it. I mean, was there any kind of certain surprises or challenges about trying to help them finish things up here at the end? Or do you feel like it just all kind of fell into place the way that it needed to, and everybody's going to get their needs met? I'm curious to get your ideas. You're trying to close the semester out yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think yes, there's yes and no there, right? So in terms of the particular methods course that they were in this semester, it was serendipitous that the course was already set up to be front loaded at the beginning. But at the same time, I think they, really, I'll be honest with you, I was profoundly bowled over by the fact that every single one of them continued in some capacity or other in supporting their collaborating teachers, because the university really gave them the option of saying, you know what, I'm out, I'm done, I've done all I need to do to fulfill my requirements, or you have the option of continuing to support your teacher in whatever capacity they needed. And every single one of them continued in some way. So that made my heart warm, right? And that made me really realize that our kids are in the hands of these wonderful future educators. And, some of them are beginning to phase out now, which is a normal phase out for any normal spring semester anyway.
Oh yeah.
And some of them will teach all the way up until the last day that they're required to teach, which would be the end of the month. And they've done some outstanding things in the classrooms with their students to support their students. And it, in terms of the classwork that remained, it was really more about continuing to create that professional network of colleagues that they can look to and lean to. And that's really what the end of the semester is about, is that cadre of professionals that after graduation, they leave, they go their separate ways, but they're still connected in some way by these kinds of professional conversations that we tend to have at the end of the semester.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's still a couple of undergrad folks that I've stayed connected with, not many of them, but a few. And then after doing the doctoral program, certainly that whole cohort has been really important to my professional growth going forward too. So setting them up for sincere success right there with them getting a network and connect, even if it's going to be virtual right now. Before we bring your students on, I also kind of wanted to ask about, how do you feel like this situation with the pandemic will maybe affect the university practices, when it comes to remote learning and just supporting students going forward?
Yeah.
That's a good question. And it's one that has been on the front of my mind for probably the last 2 weeks or so. In many of the online readings I've been doing and some of the other networks that I'm involved in, there's discussion about, what's going to happen in the fall if we're not teaching face-to-face like we would expect.
Yeah.
And how is that going to look? And what are we going to have to do to prepare for that and prepare our students for that? And for me in particular, because I work mainly with student teachers in their senior year, what's that going to look like for student teachers? And how are we going to have to make some shifts in the way that we support them and the way that we meet with them in order to maximize the kind of networking that they have available to them. The community that they build in a cohort is so crucial to their success, because they really do lean on each other, work together to troubleshoot and problem solve situations in their placements. And so that may look a little different. And I think that there's just so many variables that are unknown right now. But I know for me and my colleagues, I think we're beginning to think proactively about all the what ifs that we need to prepare for and think about preparing for our students so that they can be successful their final year as they student teach.
Right.
I know many universities have already called it. I mean, many universities are already saying that they're not going to, not in the state of Georgia, but they're already saying that they're not going to even try to meet face-to-face until January. So I don't know. I'm hoping that we'll know sooner rather than later so that we can be effective and intentional in the way that we plan to try to meet student needs.
Yeah. No. And
we wrestle with the same thing.
What you said about the cohort, though, is like, it is so important. I was actually just talking with some of the people that I graduated with that I went through the student teaching program. And I mean, we're almost like there's like a band of friends still. We still talk on Twitter. We still talk on Instagram. We reach out with ideas all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the strengths of the program at Kennesaw State is that way that relationships are built and maintained. So I'm sure if any university can pull it off, you guys definitely can.
Yeah. Well, you know, I meet with them. So our normal class meeting time is every Tuesday evening. And so we've been trying to maintain that as much as we can through Zoom.
Cool.
And I don't make it mandatory because life is just different right now, you know. But I did tell them in a joking way, but I was actually really serious that they can't get rid of me this easily. That, you know, this part of the semester is the sweet spot, right? Because they finished at TPA, and it's really kind of them being able to look holistically at where they're headed in their profession. And to take stock of where they've been and where they're going, and for all of us to be able to celebrate their successes together. And we won't be able to do that. But I told them, on some day, we will be face to face and we will celebrate in some fashion.
Definitely. Yeah. That reflection piece is so huge. So no.
We've talked about the same thing for our current seniors who are about to transition, or in Glenn's case, he's about to transition to a new school. And even though he teaches 10th graders, he's still, I think, mourning that a little bit, right?
Sure.
So bad.
I miss my students like crazy.
Yeah, I'm not ever going to I actually have a crazy half-baked plan to drop off this one project at their houses over the summer. But I mean, that's wave at them from the driveway, but that might be the last time I ever see them again.
Yep.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and get your students on board with this. So Hannah, Oliver, and Hunter Spurlock, we're going to have them join us here. We're excited to have you all join us today.
Hi.
Hey, Hannah.
Hey.
Hey, Hunter. All right. Well, it's great to see you all. Thank you for being willing to hear this good side out and having you on board with us. And we really wanted your perspective as much as anybody's, because you are about to enter the workforce, and this is an interesting time to be trying to do that for sure. So
you guys have had quite a different experience than normal, and I mean, there's definitely some things to add to the tool belt, right?
Yep.
Sorry, a little bit of a Batman reference there.
So we kind of wanted to start by talking about, and Michelle kind of hinted at this too, how you work to try to stay engaged with students that you were working with. You know, you kind of mid-stride with all of that, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, everybody go home and stay home. So just curious, between both of your perspectives, how did you try to stay engaged with both your collaborating teacher and the students you were building relationships with?
Right.
Hannah, you want to handle that first? Yeah, I'll start. So at least in Cobb County, we still do collaborative communities. We try and get together on our normal day and Zoom with all the people in our collaborative communities, Zoom has been a lifesaver, I think, for everyone during this time. So we still try and meet and collab in that way. But in regards to staying engaged with students, I was talking about this in our meeting with Miss Goodsite this week, and I think it's really tough because when you have them trapped in a classroom for 90 minutes, it's really easy to engage them. It's almost like they're forced to be engaged with whatever you're doing. But whenever you're putting it online, I think it's really easy for them to just rush through and then go do whatever they want to do, whether it's watching TV or playing video games. And so what was really good for me was uploading videos so that I could at least have them see my face. I couldn't see their faces necessarily, and do a lot of discussion posts and comment back and try and stay in touch through email. But it's difficult with like the lack of some students don't have technology at home, and so I'm really not being able to contact those students at all. So it really has been a very different experience from first semester. But
yeah, at the beginning of this whole ordeal way back in August, which feels like a lifetime ago, Ms. Goodsite told us, the cohort is very important, but it's also important to remember that no two people's experiences look exactly the same. And I think that that's especially true now because, I talk to my CT phone calls and emails and, with my students, I have ninth graders. And so my focus has definitely been more on kind of discussing how we're moving forward and how we're feeling about some of this stuff, less than To Kill a Mockingbird. Everything has a time and a place and they'll get to it. But, we're really just trying to focus on keeping that connection as far as feeling like a part of the community and stuff like that. So
Very cool.
Yeah. That's so it's and hopefully I would imagine your collaborative teachers have been good about allowing you all to continue to tap into opportunities to engage the kids and stay part of the bigger picture, which is
Right.
great. So curious, have either of you landed your jobs?
yes.
yes,
Woo!
I actually did. I had an interview lined up before the COVID-19, and they emailed me about a week into schools being canceled, and they were like, well, we're gonna have to do it over Zoom. So that was actually my first experience with Zoom, was an online interview.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so, and then it lasted about 40 minutes, and they just kind of rotated the computer around, and I talked to everybody in the conference. They were all together in a conference room still at that point. The shelter in place hadn't started. And I talked to everybody digitally through that, and it kind of worked out a little bit because it gave me something to talk about. Kennesaw does a really good job, I think, preparing digitally us students like to go out into the teaching world. In one of our classes, we create a big online digital portfolio with all the digital tools we're going to use in the classroom. So that was a really great talking point for me to be able to use during my interview, that they were able to pull up without me there, and I could kind of talk them through my digital portfolio and all of the things I use digitally. And so the COVID-19 kind of gave me a great talking point for how I'll use technology if this were to happen again. So
Yeah,
That's cool.
that's a pretty tremendous. I mean, you almost wonder if the situation didn't make your interview even more engaged, because
Right.
everybody has to kind of center on what's being talked about, and then, like you said, you've provided them ways to get to see things that you're capable of doing. Sometimes those face-to-face interviews, you don't really get that chance. Like,
No.
you bring
Yeah.
the portfolio, but then maybe they
Yeah.
don't
Even, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I had a
In
couple
this
of
case,
those.
they had to.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the job, and Hunter, it looked like you were nodding your head too.
Yes. I actually got my interview in right before everything got canceled, so I still did a face-to-face. Yeah, right. By that point, it looked like at some point or another we were going to go to digital learning. So, like Hannah, my online portfolio came up, and they actually asked if I minded them pulling it up right there, and so they kind of looked at it, and I was actually driving home from my last day student teaching, and I got a call from the principal, and So I go tomorrow to sign the contract and make it official.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank
it was
you.
definitely a relief off of the shoulders, you know,
Right.
to kind of chill.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what am I gonna do all summer? Like, not looking for a job anymore.
Yeah.
No, well, trust me, you can spend plenty of time getting ready for what's going to happen in August.
Right.
Oh yeah.
and,
Definitely.
Just like
Definitely.
Ms.
Yeah.
Goodsite was saying, there's still always a weird chance that come August, maybe we're not doing face-to-face classes, and that's
Right.
Right.
I don't even like that coming out of my mouth, but I'm trying to wrestle
I
with the
know.
realities.
I know.
That could
Yeah.
happen. So I think we all have plenty of work to do.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. I mean, but just also too, the fact that you'll never have to go to a teaching job fair. Like, oh, at least not now. So
Right.
like,
Not anymore. I think Hunter and I did a couple of those
oh,
like earlier on in the semester. So those were not fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
no,
He was on
no.
a big one, and
But,
we went to that one, but
Okay. Yeah.
that was enough for me.
I think that was my least favorite part
yeah,
about
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, not cool.
They're a
Not
little
cool.
overwhelming, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like I can attest, just having been a part of what Ms. Goodsite does with interviewing preparation and some of the work that I know
Right.
she does with you all, that Kennesaw does a nice job of preparing you for those moments. So
Oh, for sure.
it doesn't surprise me that the two of you got jobs.
Yeah.
But that's a relief. I'm really that's happy news for all of us to hear.
Yeah.
Well, now we want to transition. We're going to add another layer to this. So we're going to bring on Alex
One
Russom,
more.
who is a first-year teacher who came out of the Kennesaw program just a year ago, and at Kennesaw Mountain High School. We're really excited to bring you on, Alex.
There we go.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
we can. We're good.
Okay, good. But I'm doing well. You know, I'm very lucky to be working and still teaching during this process. It's definitely been an unexpected process for sure. You know, you spend so long training to get into the classroom, and then halfway through second semester, you are figuring out how to be out of the classroom. So I think it just really proves how adaptable teachers are.
Yes.
And how we've all had to change because of this.
So speaking of change, what's one of the first things you found yourself needing to adapt to as a first-year teacher to make this work for your students and for you, for that matter?
I think the first thing that we really had to adapt to, I think Hannah hinted on it a little bit, is in Cobb, we're not one-to-one. So a lot of kids don't have the same access to technology that they might in other counties. And we're definitely split on who may have access regardless, as far as like poverty or, you know, access money-wise. So what we kind of did is try to split it halfway. We were lucky we had about 24 hours, and we kind of knew it was coming. So we had about 24 hours once they told us it was Thursday, and they told us Friday was our last day. So we spent some time just, you know, putting together work and trying to figure out who had books and who had laptops. My co-teacher and I have worked trying to get kids laptops that Cobb has provided. So a lot of that has been the main issue, and I think it's really going to have to be addressed if, like you said, unfortunately, if we're not back in August, that's going to be a huge hurdle still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
We've seen that play out in Gwinnett too, you know, needing to get technology to students. I think that it's a double-edged sword, but this reveals equity issues that probably need to be discussed at a higher level across those who make powerful decisions.
Yeah.
So without going down that rabbit hole, I do want to say, since you all are bringing it up, I mean, this is revealing some uglier truths about what's going on with student access.
Just across the board in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah. That digital divide. We talk about it a lot. I'm sure you all studied it. You've talked about this gap. Well, now here's the gap in real life in all of our faces, and we can't ignore it anymore. You know?
Nope.
All right. Well, so through all of that, what's gone surprisingly well? You know, what's been the, you know, wow, this is actually kind of neat about the situation going on with your kids in your classroom.
I would say, as far as kids go, their adaptability as well, they're wanting to keep in touch and wanting to learn. I know a lot of people have been using Zoom, and a lot of my kids get on Zoom just to talk to each other, just to see how each other are doing. And I think that has really surprised me, that social aspect of learning. You sign up to be like an English teacher, but there's so many other things that go into teaching and in our classroom community that I think we're really losing, or at least trying to facilitate during the digital learning. The other thing that surprised me is also kind of on the teacher and colleague end. I've been really lucky. I've been at Kennesaw Mountain for almost 2 years now, because I student taught there, and now I got a job there. And it was really interesting and nice to see all of my colleagues really change the way they were doing things and really work together and work really hard for their students. That was very, nice to see.
Yeah.
We were every day, and then you saw them literally pulling out all the stops for their kids, because so often you're in your classroom or you're working with the same 3 people who are teaching 9th lit, so to see everyone working and everyone trying to help each other out and help their kids out was really nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
You can't see that everywhere, right? So like Glenn, you and I have talked a lot behind the scenes about, even in the team you lead, you have up and down days, just in terms of you guys' productivity and where people's headspaces are.
Definitely. Yeah. But I mean, I think I like what you're saying though, about just being able to kind of experience maybe the school in a more connected way in some ways, because we don't have those walls that have always been artificial. And, once those walls come down, then there can be definitely a lot more interaction. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's really opened the conversation to see, where we can improve vertically, some vertical integration, and how we can all work with each other instead of just on our CCCs, our collaborative communities, how we can branch out as an English department.
Yeah.
That's powerful, We talk about that spiral, and especially in like English standards, right?
Yeah.
You're really building upon the same skills, as they work their way through high school. And you're right. What a cool opportunity to really dig into that.
Yeah.
That's what I found even in my office of support. We're spending a lot more time digging at things that we always say we don't have enough time to do, or man, I wish we had more time to do.
Right.
Well,
and what's necessary to teach, our principal is hit a lot on just teach exactly what's necessary. So all of those little like piddly things kind of fall out the window too, which is interesting because it makes you reevaluate what you're teaching and how you're teaching it as well.
Yeah, reflecting on like what's actually necessary. And I mean, I think one of the things that, and I'm already seeing you guys like do this as a whole, all 3 of you guys, is you're already starting to think about like, how is this going to prepare me for when we do have next year? What are my takeaways from all of this that I can now learn from and then carry forward? And I mean, that's huge. That's really kind of a secret to teaching, which I know you guys know, but like that never stops. You're constantly reflecting on, hey, what did I learn from this, especially the bad, and how can I carry this forward, next year, and that adaptability piece. Yeah, that's cool. Very, very cool, guys. That's awesome.
Look, yeah, the future for classrooms is great. I selfishly want to pull all of you into Gwinnett County Public Schools. And I probably wasn't actually allowed to say that. So Glenn, maybe edit that part out, man.
Okay, no problem.
It's really been a delight to talk to all of you. These perspectives are so important, and I appreciate personally the positivity you're bringing to it as well. This is an easy way for us to get pretty bummed out about, well, we didn't get this and we didn't get that and we're not getting that experience. And, Ms. Goodsite, you had kind of said that, like, we're not kind of getting those ways to cap years that we're used to. But that doesn't mean great things aren't happening, or there's hard things that we can be excited about.
That's right.
And what you guys are getting. That's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we get to how we end the show, anything for kind of the good of people that you want others that are in your situation to know or think about as a first-year teacher, as someone who's landed your job, about to go off, or even at the college ranks, and encouraging colleagues who are working with remote learning too. This is kind of an open forum. This is a surprise, by the way. You didn't know you were going to get to do this.
I'll start. I mean, I think for me, it really gets down to remembering that we're in the business of human beings. And while curriculum is hugely important and standards are hugely important, that we are in the business of human beings. And we need to remember that, especially now, more than ever. And we need to make sure that we are taking care of each other as educators, that we're taking care of our students, and be mindful that all of this is difficult for all of us, no matter where we land in the education profession, whether we're first-year teachers, student teachers, or veteran teachers.
Yeah.
That for all of us, this is a new and different. And I think the way that we as teachers approach this trickles down directly into how our students are going to approach this, right? That if you know, sometimes we need to remember that it's okay to let go of things. And I think, Alex, you were alluding a little bit to this, and not let the minutia get in the way of the more important things. So that would be kind of my final thought there.
That's cool.
Yeah, I absolutely think that like drawing on your resources and trying not to stay closed off, because I know we've all kind of hinted at it. It's getting onto the 16th episode of this and you're like, when does it end? But at the same time, you know, we have more time right now than we ever have before. So to connect with your colleagues or connect with friends or other teachers, it's been extremely important. Extremely important.
Yeah, I was just going to say I think this whole thing has showed us just how important those personal connections with people and students really are in the classroom, because anybody can get online and upload work online and upload things for students to do. But being in the classroom with kids, like all of us teachers are missing that person-to-person personal connection.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love what you just said there. Anybody can upload the work, but if you haven't spent the time to build the relationships, then it definitely shines a light on what's missing. So.
Yeah.
Just because Miss Goodsite was able to go that entire time without saying it, I'll say it for her. This too shall pass. All of this, it seems crazy, you know, but EdTPA scores still come in, job interviews still happen.
That's
the
right.
kids are still there looking for what's next from you, and so putting one foot in front of the other, it's the biggest thing you can do.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, thank you all again for joining us. We always finish things out by doing a small little outro piece, which Lynn's going to take us through, so you all stick around for that as we close today out.
Yeah,
Thank you
definitely.
so much for having us. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the outro, just real fast, I wanted to kind of talk real fast about an opportunity that maybe we haven't considered before. This kind of clicked for me. Right now, maybe more than ever, NCTE has been hit or miss as far as, and NCTE is a National Council of Teachers of English. It's kind of the big super organization that does a lot of professional development, a lot of publishing resources. The yearly conference is unbelievable. But, and if you're not an English teacher, if that's not your space, then just hear me out. But I want to talk more really about the fact that a lot of these conferences that maybe have been inaccessible until now are actually a lot closer because of the fact that everything has to be digital. So I've been getting a lot of just tons of emails from NCTE, but they have some amazing programs available right now. So whatever your space is, just be aware that they haven't stopped either. In fact, all of these resources are largely available. I wanted to point this out. This is really cool. There's actually a conference that you can join on Monday, April 27th with Jason Reynolds.
I'll be there.
Yeah, and Ibram Kennedy. So
Yeah, I'm going.
Kennedy. Yeah, no, very cool. But this is something that you can actually get access to very easily, just RSVPing, and this is just one of many resources available right now. So just as a quick outro, check out what's available for you guys to kind of plug into, and you know, just keep that conversation happening, keep that growing happening. Like Hunter said, you know, there's still one foot to put in front of the other, and maybe some paths are actually easier now. So that's just something I thought was cool.
All right, everyone. Well, again, thank you to our guests. Thank you for those of you that watched this and spent time with us. We're going to keep doing this as long as people are willing to watch. So we'll see how long this continues to go. In the meantime, you can catch me online on Twitter at the Prof Jones.
And I'm at gchant668.
All right, everyone, be safe and stay healthy.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.